all. I hope you're doing well in these, gonna go for the buzzword again, these extraordinary, unprecedented times. Welcome to the Fintech Finance Virtual Arena where we're hosting you today. Today we've actually got a double act. We've got James and Craig from Currensea who are, well, we're going to be taking a bit of a deep dive into their new offering. How are you doing, guys? Whereabouts in the world are you guys at the moment?
We're over in Hammersmith. Yeah. So yeah.
Fintech capital of the world, London.
Exactly. That's
Absolutely.
right. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, let's get straight into it. First thing I've kind of got to ask is, what's the problem we're trying to solve? What is the issue with foreign exchange in the card market? What's the challenge out there?
I mean, we found for ourselves when we'd come back, so we used to work together, and we came back from holidays and we're sitting down and chatting one evening, and the challenge we faced was looking at our bank statements and seeing fees. And the fees were high, it'd been family holidays, they're quite expensive, but the fees were expensive too. And our problem was we didn't want we wanted the convenience of using our existing bank cards. And we found all the existing solutions in the market just quite inconvenient, having to sort of top up and prepay or manage separate accounts. So that was sort of the challenge we were facing. And I think that's one of the challenges in the market is that in fact, people want convenience and value together, and they struggle to find it.
Yeah, and I think it was it turns out that we weren't alone. When we spoke to our friends after this beer, it became obvious this was a common problem. Certainly over 35s. Under 35s, I think there's a lot of pretty decent offerings, but over 35s, you've got pretty complicated lives. You've got a long-standing relationship with your probably your high street bank, and the vast majority of people just want to use their high street bank, but just not pay the fees basically.
Absolutely, because I remember on bank statements you have the cost of the transaction, a fixed fee for using it abroad, and then a percentage. So for every transaction abroad, you kind of have three different lines on the statement.
Yeah, so it turns out to be about between 3 and 4% of the transaction goes to the bank.
Wow, that's
that was the problem we needed to solve basically.
And you mentioned obviously more sort of the over 35s market. Where was the aha moment? Where was the going from, rather than just thinking, do you know what, this is something that needs to be done, to we're going to do this, we're going to be the guys that do this? Yeah,
I think maybe a bit of background actually. So I studied physics at Oxford, and then moved into investment banking, and was a CTO of investment banking in a string of investment banks. And then in the middle of this decade, I moved into the consumer digital space, and was actually the chief engineer of open banking across Lloyds Banking Group, which is the UK's largest retail bank. James?
Yeah, and my background all been around foreign exchange, electronic trading, and sort of platforms around that. So between the two of us, we had quite a good background in this space. And so over a beer, we decided that the answer to this was, how do we have a card that works with our existing bank account, but just doesn't charge the fees?
Yeah.
So simple.
And clearly the open banking was the key to unlocking this model. So that was the start of the story, and I think that was probably in late 2017. So we then spent a few months kind of developing our thoughts and ideas, and then I think it was maybe Q4 2018. So I guess 2 years ago, where we decided to hit it hard, and that's when Currensea was really born. The concept of Currensea was born. We spent about 9 months developing the first incarnation of the platform, which went live in August 19. We spent a few months just testing things. Everything basically worked, and then we launched in January this year. And obviously it's been an interesting time. We can drill into the progress we've made shortly, but that's the kind of broad shape of Currensea, really, the history.
Do you know, because I was looking into this, and now that you've said your background there, it just seems so bloody obvious, doesn't it? Because I honestly thought, looking through this, going, is this another FX card? Do we need another Revolut to the market, another WeSwap where you're moving the stuff around? But obviously, the open banking is the unique selling point here.
Yeah, that's right. James, do you want to take it?
Yeah, I think it has. I mean, I think there are challenger banks out there, there are prepaid cards out there, but I think they have one thing in common, which is you do need to maintain that separate pot of cash, transfer money across, prepaid, all that sort of thing, and it's quite inconvenient. So, for us, we wanted something different. We wanted something really convenient, which offers value as well. And if we look historically, Travelex had tried to do this with a product called the Supercard years back, and which was open banking wasn't around then, and they produced a card which linked to another card, which linked to a bank account. So again, it gave that convenience, but in doing so, they got huge uptakes. It was really popular, but the commercials just didn't stack up for them using that sort of model. So they had to close it down with a loss after a year, sadly. But open banking has enabled us to do something which gives that similar convenience, but with the commercial footing that's actually a positive.
Yeah, and I think it's also worth saying that Currensea is the world's first debit card that's powered by open banking. So that's a really, really fantastic kind of moniker for us to have, really.
Let's we got to talk about the open banking element of it, because again, 5 years ago, you mentioned Traveler, it wouldn't be possible. So can we just talk a little bit around how the kind of mechanics of the card work in regards to open banking?
Yeah, so basically a customer logs on to currensea.com and they give us a little bit of information about themselves. And then we present the customer with a set of the high street banks in the UK. So if you've got a Barclays account, you click on the Barclays link. And fundamentally what that does is it navigates over to internet banking, Barclays internet banking in this case, and they log in to their internet banking as normal. They don't share any credentials with us. It's just entirely between the customer and the bank. The customer then gets prompted to give consent to connect Currensea up to their account. They basically press a button, and there's a bunch of magic that happens behind the scenes. But that essentially forms the connection between Currensea and the customer's account. So when the customer is in New York or in Tokyo using Currensea, they just use the Currensea card as normal. The 5,000 Japanese yen signal comes over MasterCard rails, hits us. We do all the FX, which is clearly core parts of our proposition, and then we use the connection that we've established with the bank to check that the customer has sufficient funds, and if they have sufficient funds, we will authorize the transaction. And then there's a whole bunch of stuff that happens behind the scenes in terms of moving money around, but those are the basic mechanics. There are lots and lots of subtleties to the model that we've had to work through, but that's the kind of core pattern of the data flows, basically.
Fantastic. I imagine on the technology side of things, again, I always like to use this as a benchmark. If we were doing this 5-10 years ago, there would probably be quite a lot of people involved, and it'd take quite a while. What's the kind of how seamless is it on the back end in terms of the people behind it? And I'm assuming it's almost entirely powered by automation and technology.
Well, it is. We've done everything clearly in the cloud. It's just unbelievable what you can do in the cloud nowadays. We've got a small team of a handful of developers that have pulled this together. Very good guys. That's clearly important. So very smart, experienced guys. We've pulled those guys together. We've done all the integrations with all of the high street banks. Some of those were bumpy, as you can imagine. We've done all the FX integration. We've built AI engines. We've basically built this whole thing with a handful of people. And to your point about automation, we've tried to automate as much as possible from an operational perspective. So we've got a very small ops team. everything is, we'll try to make everything self-healing. So, we don't have, an army of people having to fix things. Things just flow around, and we've really essentially just got the team dealing with exceptions. That's how we run such a lean operation. I mean, it's worth just saying actually that Currensea has been used in about 115 countries on the planet. We've transacted in 70 currencies, and it just works with a small team in as you said, the Fintech capital, which is Hammersmith.
Actually, obviously, the reason I want to touch around this, we're seeing. I always find it fascinating the approach that new challenges take in terms of funding, because on one end there is definitely that very, very long term relying on VC funding viewpoint, and then equally there's also if funding kind of gets pulled, there tends to be a bit of a grab to try and find as much revenue as possible, and it often seems quite short-sighted. Whereas I'm assuming that in terms of your revenue stream, it'll come from monthly fees, but also is there potential revenue on the FX?
Would you like to say that?
Yeah, I mean we have a couple of different pricing plans. Free pricing plan where there's a tiny, just a little margin, a 0.5% margin on the FX. Or a subscription plan where, it is flat zero interbank on the FX. So there's a little bit on the FX depending on the pricing plan. There's a little bit on interchange. There's a bit on subscription. So there are a number of different revenue streams there.
I imagine that your cost savings by having such a small, efficient team mean that your FX is probably quite competitive to the high street banks. Yeah,
I mean, I think if we look at if the average high street bank is charging between 3 to 5% depending on the transactions, and we're charging between 0 and half, then I think you can say it's pretty competitive.
Absolutely, and again that gives that reason for customers to come back again. So you're reliant on your own revenue.
Absolutely, and it's just that, and they get the convenience of their high street bank without any of the downsides. So it's
I mean, we've added some really interesting features to our. I know we're talking a lot about our consumer proposition, but obviously, what we've discussed so far applies to business, which is just launching. But on the consumer side, we've introduced a really fantastic feature that we're very proud of, which essentially allows our customers to automatically offset their carbon footprint as they're using Currensea. So the customer can essentially choose to sacrifice some of the savings, and we will take those savings and basically plant trees somewhere on the planet to offset their carbon footprint. So one tree through its life will sequester 1 ton of CO2, which is amazing. And 1 ton of CO2 is basically the equivalent of a transatlantic flight. So you plant one tree, it's essentially offsetting your carbon footprint for a transatlantic flight.
But it's gone down.
It's gone to be very, very well.
It's gone well. We've had 10% of our customers using 20% of their fee savings to plant trees. We had one customer who planted 75 trees over the summer. So it's gone now. It's gone on quite well. I think people have that sort of. People love to travel, but they also have that guilt around traveling, around that sort of carbon footprint. So to be able to offset some of that, it's gone on well. So it's the beginning of the year, it's gone really well.
That's kind of the product, the absolute kind of core offering, and also the business model. I just want to talk a little bit around the funding last year. Can you just tell me a little bit around? It was Seeders your campaign?
Yeah, so we've done 3 rounds now, and a mixture of private investors and seeders, the whole crowdfunding side of it. And we thought the thing about crowdfunding is you get to be able to offer small shares out to just a large number of people. So because the offering I think was just so obvious, so simple and so compelling, going out to the crowd was just such an obvious thing for us.
Yeah,
on the consumer side.
Yeah, and I think that each one of those people, I'm not sure exactly how many, we've got 700 or 800. They become our ambassadors, which we think is very important for a consumer proposition.
we were on the Seeders platform worked. Yeah, it worked well, and actually I think we were oversubscribed within a week and a half. So it was a quick process, and we left the taps open for a little bit longer. But so that it just went really well. We've got some great brand advocates now, as Craig said, and who are really interested in progress and updates, this sort of thing, and give some ideas and some. Really, it's been a great experience.
We've got some fantastic private investors that have wanted to get involved, and in fact advisors. So on our advisory board, we've got the former CEO of Amazon in the UK. We've got some of the co-founders of Booking.com involved, the former CIO of WorldPay. So a really amazing set of people, all of whom are working with us to bring this concept to market.
Fantastic, X. Well, we got to talk about the news this week as well. So it's not just on the consumer side. Let's talk business. What's the offering for small businesses, and what's the need as well?
Well, I mean, we had a number of people sign up on the consumer product who are freelancers, and then we also had a number of people getting in touch saying, "Are you doing this for business?" So based on that, we had a vision of doing something for businesses at some point in the future. But based on that and all that sort of demand, we basically pulled it forward. And also with COVID, the consumer offering was fairly focused on travel, but the SME offering that we're launching is more focused on goods and services abroad, which is it's a big market. It's a really big market. So it sort of diversifies our risk across that. But what is the offering itself? Great.
Yeah, so I mean, at its core, it's very, very similar. Which is basically you get a Currensea World debit card for businesses, which is again, it connects to the underlying bank account of the SME, and the numbers are amazing. The vast majority of business current accounts in the UK are concentrated in the big four banks in the UK. So in spite of a lot of challenges, the big four dominate, and it's actually really hard to change bank accounts. You've got all of your everything set up, all of your accounting package integration is all done. It's just very, very painful to switch banks but it's painful enough as a consumer, but it's even more painful on the business side. So again, our proposition: you get a Currensea card, you link it to your bank account, and you just use it as you would use your normal bank debit card, and you just eliminate all of your FX costs. One of the beauties of this is that there's basically no process change in terms of your accounting package integration, because when you do a Currensea transaction, it just appears on your normal bank statement. So because you've already got the integration between your bank and your accounting package, everything just happens seamlessly. So that's unbelievably attractive. So all a customer needs to do is they need to just change the card number that they're paying with, and they will magically eliminate all of their FX costs and never have to worry about it again. It's quite interesting. A couple of examples of this. So Currensea, we use a lot of. We're obviously a Fintech, but a lot of our costs are in US dollars because that's how we pay for all our infrastructure. And it was very frustrating for us because we were using our normal bank debit card, and every month we were getting hit by this, and it was almost physically painful to see these charges that we discussed earlier. So we swapped out our bank debit card with a Currensea card, and just updated the card number, and we've basically saved 3 to 4% of our technology costs just by changing one card number. So that was really amazing.
Yeah, we were quite a good case study with that, because there are clearly alternatives. We could have tried to open up a second account or tried to open up some sort of another product, prepaid product, but actually the process change and the it would have been probably me having to keep shoveling money across there all the time, keep track of a separate balance, does it run out or not, explain to the accountants why I'm moving money across. It's quite higher hassle, so that's why we didn't do it. So I can imagine, if we didn't do it, then a lot of people would be in the same boat. So that was the key thing. And also there's an education piece here as well, I think, where certainly in this climate as well, where below a certain price point, maybe below a sort of maybe £10,000, paying by card is a lot safer than alternative like a sort of money transfer, etc. So for us, we've tried to push all our expense onto cards simply because if the goods don't arrive, or if something doesn't get delivered, or the company goes bankrupt, or whatever, someone you're paying, with a card, you're really well protected, and Currensea, amongst other cards, has a chargeback protection. If you're transferring money, or you get one digit wrong, or the money's just gone, right now in a sort of COVID type environment with Brexit coming up, uncertainties, I don't think any SME can afford to take the risk of money just either just disappearing or not getting the goods coming through. So for us, that's been quite an educational thing as well, making sure people are aware of that message.
I think any organisation, I think it's a Silicon Valley term, but dog fooding? Is that the, you're dog fooding?
Yeah.
And it's been really tasty.
No, but that the fact you're using yourself as your own case study, I mean, that's phenomenal. Let's look a little bit towards the future. I mean, are there any currencies that you're not currently supporting, and are there any kind of other big high street banks, maybe even outside of the UK, that you want to have as partners on the platform?
Well, so in terms of the currencies, so we support any currency on the planet. As I mentioned earlier, we've transacted in about 70 currencies so far, but there are 200 currencies in the world, and we support all of them. So that's very good. And in terms of our future roadmap and geographic expansion, I think that for the next for 2021, we're going to stay concentrated on our home markets. There's clearly a lot of uncertainty with Brexit as well. So we want to secure a stronger foothold in our home market as possible before expanding geographically. Europe or certain geographies within Europe make the most sense, because that's where open banking is part of PSD2, and PSD2 is across Europe. So the banks, European banks, are compatible with the technology that we've built. So that makes sense to expand to those geographies at the right time. Yeah.
Excellent. And in terms of other high street banks?
Well, so we're already integrated with the major high street banks, and we are starting to move down the tail. But I think we're going to focus mainly on the high street banks rather than the challenger banks, to be honest, because challenger banks, they've already got a pretty strong offering. So we're concentrating on the big banks, which have the majority of the market.
Yeah, and those banks that people have asked for. We do get a lot of people saying, do you support X bank, X, Y? So yeah, it's those banks we'll be focusing on first, based on the sort of things people have asked for.
This is what I love about, well, first of all, what I love about fintech as a whole, but open banking is actually, as a product, this is niche. If it's a perfect segment and it delivers exactly what they want, couldn't have existed without the regulation, couldn't have existed without this ecosystem that's developed all around fintech.
I think that's absolutely right, and I think that there are some fantastic propositions out there around open banking, but we think ours is so different to all the other propositions out there. Just to reflect that or reinforce that, 2 weeks ago we were announced in the PaySec Awards as the PaySec of the future, which is amazing. So for an open banking proposition to be declared as the PaySec of the future is fantastic. We were also announced as the number 3 Fintech disruptor in the UK this week. So we're obviously getting a lot of fantastic recognition, because I think that the benefit of Currensea is that it's just so simple as a concept, and even my kids get it, even my kids understand it. Everyone can understand it. So I think that's the thing that's really resonating in the marketplace, is the simplicity and the kind of elegance of the solution.
Absolutely, and shout out to Joe and the team at GPS as well with the award.
Absolutely, yeah.
Last thing I want to ask, and I love asking this. So Santander, obviously, Anton Deck. Atom Bank has will.i.am on its board. Who's the pop culture icon, living or dead, who you think would best personify Currensea? But more importantly, why that person?
I think it's a very good question, and I would say that David Bowie is a great guy. He's a creative genius who changed the music industry. So I think we like to think of ourselves as creative geniuses. I'm not sure that our wives would agree with that. But we do think that we are changing this segment of the industry. And I think that the Bowie's quality proved to be timeless, and I'd like to think that in going forwards that our quality will also be timeless. So I think that's Bowie's a good guy. I don't think anyone could argue with that.
That's an absolutely solid one there. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. Where's the best place to reach out to you and find out more? TikTok?
Probably not TikTok. So I would say currensea.com is probably the best place to find out more about us.
Yeah, Currensea.com, and those the awards Craig mentioned. There are some great profiles there which can say a bit more.
Yeah.
Brilliant, excellent. Well, guys, thank you so much.
Thanks very much, Ali.
Thanks a lot.
Cheers.